I forgot my. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 8-Bit Adventures podcast, bringing you the latest geeky news of the week. I don't know if the news we have this week is, I would consider the greatest news we have. Uh, that said, special guest this week, Joey Image, been on the podcast before, friend of the podcast. Uh,
Good evening.
we are here primarily to talk about the Steam Deck. However, there is sort of one big bombshell of news that we wanted to just talk about a little bit, and that's I'm sure many of you in the chat have heard of the lawsuit the state of California has filed against. We can basically call it Blizzard. It's
Yeah,
technically against Activision Blizzard, but it's
right.
primarily against the Blizzard division. Um, so we don't want to get too far into it, just because as you may have noticed, we don't have any female representation on the podcast this week. Uh, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds on it. If you would like to hear a more in-depth explanation, and get some female perspectives on the situation, there are some podcasts that I can direct you to. One is the most recent episode of The Instance by Scott Johnson, where he has Jules Scott on there, who is a Heroes of the Storm tournament and community organizer, as well as a prolific podcaster in her own right. As well as, I believe, the most recent episode of The Angry Chicken by Garrett Weinzierl and Jocelyn Moffat, um, which is a Hearthstone podcast. Both of them talk about uh, sort of what's going on, and sort of what it's like sort of in the Blizzard space, as a woman, and being involved in the community and organizing events and stuff. So, um, that said, what is happening is there was a massive lawsuit filed after 2-year investigation and possibly ongoing investigation by the state of California, um, detailing what is sort of rampant sexual harassment and like wage discrimination, um, and just a general hostile work environment toward women, at Blizzard, specifically on the World of Warcraft team. Um, uh, there are some pretty heinous stuff detailed in the filing docs. We don't necessarily have to go into those details just due to the specific content, um, because it can be pretty triggering for a lot of people. Um, all in all, uh, not good. There's a lot of people that Joey and I, in particular, have interacted with at events that are apparently part of this, as has come out from like a Kotaku article released today. Um, so yeah, uh, I guess to further state, I don't know if this podcast will reach anybody involved or in that situation or even dealing with similar situations, but I just want you to know, uh, you have our support. Um, and you should not have had to deal with what you had to deal with. So, um, sorry for kind of monopolizing the conversation there, Joey. Uh,
No problem. No, it's your show, man.
yeah, I don't want to speak for what anyone should do, aside from providing support and empathy to people involved. Um, but I mean, this for me was kind of the final straw. Uh, and I mean, I've canceled everything Blizzard involved, uninstalled everything. And until they can prove that things are fixed with like actual hard evidence that things are fixed moving forward, I'm done. You know, I mean, if some big news comes out on the podcast, we'll talk about it, but I'm not gonna support it going forward. Um, that said, I mean, if you're in a position where your social support structure is involved with uh any Blizzard properties, you know, God. Sorry, we had somebody like bang something outside, and now the dog's going off, the baby's going off, and everything. The joys of podcasting with windows open. Um, uh, yeah, ultimately you have to make that decision. I know there is a movement today to sort of boycott stuff. That there's always a question of whether that has any impact. Um, but I know for a lot of Blizzard games, they do have player engagement metrics. So, for a 1 day thing, I don't know if it'll matter that much unless it's also looking at in conjunction with this measure. Um, but if you're kind of in the same boat as me and it was the final straw, uh, I mean that is something that can be measured. So, um, again, to put it finally, you know, support the victims 100%. Um, and I certainly hope that um this suit makes a difference. I mean, the cynical take is it might not, that, the company will just settle, like kind of like what Riot did, but at the very least, you know, if it coincides with public backlash, that maybe there can be some positive change. Uh, and that the industry can take a couple more steps forward. Um, or ideally
I
a giant
almost
step forward.
I almost feel like I didn't even realize this, but my light up Overwatch light is right here. I almost feel like I being a dick. Oh, I'm being a not nice guy right now, and should have gotten rid of that before we started. It didn't even dawn on me. I mean, I don't know. Not to cut you off. I don't know how to feel. I have friends that still work there. I have friends that used to
Yeah.
work there. Um, uh, uh, I'm talking Blizzard now. Nobody that I know came over from the Activision side when they took over or anything like that. Um, but uh, I considered doing the cancellation of WoW thing, but I'm already paid up for 6 more months. So I feel like not playing. Well, I haven't played WoW in weeks anyway. Before that month, I played once, like 2 weeks ago, with my wife because she likes it. Before that, it's been at least 3 or 4 months. I just got bored. So it's one of those things where there's no player interaction coming from me anyway, really. Nothing of any significance, at least.
Yeah.
But but I just feel like, well, you know what? Let me ask you this actually, because this is just a random question that came up the other day in a conversation. I asked a friend, and he didn't know. Can a company tell when a PC has uninstalled something? Like, would Blizzard know, like, oh, this location, this IP address just uninstalled World of Warcraft?
That I don't know.
Because if they don't, then I don't. What's the point?
I would
Or what? Or
assume so I would be basing it on whether you're engaging with the launcher. Like I could see
well,
them tracking that, but
okay,
maybe
because
not.
that's how everything's uninstalled now, or installed and uninstalled is through the
Yeah.
launcher. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't think about it that way.
Um but
That's
yeah, I don't
otherwise
know.
you can go to control panel in Windows and uninstall it manually that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
I actually didn't think about that. The
Actually these
launcher,
days
yeah.
you can't really. It directs you to the launcher to
Oh, it
uninstall it.
does?
Yeah.
Oh god. It's
Yeah.
been that long since I've uninstalled it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine that it's just through interaction with the launcher and not necessarily with
Okay.
uninstalling. I could be wrong. I don't have a
Yeah.
whole lot of experience
I didn't
on
I
the
didn't
software
think to
side.
Google that, and I don't know what I would how I would phrase that, like, to Google it anyway. It seems like such a specific question about, like, Sean's specific PC or
Yeah.
my specific PC. Like, how would they know in California that I just took a piece of software off my computer.
Yeah.
But I don't. I guess that's how I would phrase it. Does Blizzard know if I uninstall a game?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I just had to talk it out, and then it made sense.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was saying, I still I feel like I haven't played WoW. I'm on Final Fantasy 14 now, which everyone's raving about, and everyone's telling me to go. Oh, you got to play this, especially if you're done with WoW, especially if you're, you're done with Blizzard, or whatever. You got to try this. Game's great. It is great, and not to get too into that, but it reminds me of WoW back when WoW was new and exciting.
Yeah.
So I've been playing that, and I haven't played Call of Duty in a while. I played Overwatch one time last week before this all came out, and I hadn't played that in months either. So I haven't played anything. I haven't engaged in anything Blizzard in the Blizzard universe in a long time anyway. So I feel like not that I'm not doing my part, but I'm not doing my part because I wasn't. I feel like I haven't been involved in a while to begin with. So me not playing that stuff is not really helping anybody. Not It's not hurting anybody, but I feel like I don't know how I can make a difference. I don't know how I can help other than just support
Yeah.
the minorities, the gender inequality that's been going on. All this stuff I mean, it's so disheartening to hear that like this company that you know me, you, everybody, every gamer I know has played a Blizzard game or still does, or has loved a Blizzard game or is a big fan of the company themselves or whatever. Not so much as Activision took over, I understand that, but this stuff is solely uh I don't know solely because not I'm sure not all the information is out yet, but so far what's been in the news is all Blizzard guys, Blizzard people, employees, situations. I haven't seen anything that's like, oh, this was happening at Activision first, and then they came over here, and it's still happening. Everything I've seen so far has been all Blizzard.
Yeah.
And that's the disheartening thing about it is that like I know people that work there still.
Yeah.
I know people that used to work there. Like I hate to think that guys that I know, specifically guys that I know that don't work there anymore, were involved in this. And I know two personally that have made statements so far, and I don't believe, based on those statements, I don't believe they had anything to do with this or knew about it. Um, I mean, there's one there's one thing that I haven't seen anybody else mention other than myself, and when people will respond to whoever from Blizzard online and say, how can you say you didn't know if you worked with, for example, the guy whose initials are AA, I didn't want to say his name,
Yeah.
um, but he just seems like that guy just seems like such a prick. I mean, I always seemed he always seemed snotty. I've never been to BlizzCon. I've only seen I do the live virtual ticket every year. Um, he just always seems like snippy and snotty to me. And now here it comes out that hey, this guy is a grade A jackass. Like,
Yeah.
well, that seems to fit the mold I've been hearing about. But like, I forget where I was going with that. That just thought is completely right out of my head. But anyway, all right, I know where I was going. People are responding to people online saying like, "How could you know?" or "How could you not know?" and you didn't do anything about it, blah 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 blah. And you saw this person all the time. You must have known that that this AA guy was doing whatever. There's no way that you weren't aware of it. You just brushed it on the rug. And the fact I was talking about that I don't see a lot of people mention other than myself was that the Blizzard campus is more than one building. So
Yeah.
it's not like you and I could both work at Blizzard, and I could go weeks or months nuts, or we can go our entire Blizzard careers and never see each other if you're here and I'm here. And it's not even like the buildings are next to each other; they're across the street. I mean, I've toured the campus. Headquarters HQ is here. The other two buildings are the ones that I know about are across the highway, across the street, which is, I mean, I say street that makes it sound small, but it's like a 4-lane divided highway, not a highway, but it's
Yeah.
a heavy traffic road. So it's very, very conceivable that somebody could be in one building, another guy could be in another building, and they could just not see each other. And nobody's mentioned that. And I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm just saying the possibility that someone didn't know about something or didn't know something was going on is there based on the fact that I work here and you work here. Maybe I
Yeah.
don't see you all day. I mean,
Um,
and if someone's not told about the situation, I feel like they can't be blamed for it. uh, I don't know. Sometimes there's just not signs. Like I'm really not taking up for Blizzard here because I think that they're in the crapper right now, and
Yeah.
they deserve to. Based on this, if everything in these articles is true, then they deserve to be there. And
It's also, quite telling that based on some of the stuff that is in the lawsuit, that, like, their human resources department would be complicit
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
part of the problem. So, like, that also could be if they're withholding stuff from who it needs to go to. I mean,
yeah,
the takeaway is we really don't know.
correct.
And I mean, people may have known, they may not have known. There's no way to know for sure until there's stuff that comes to light.
Yeah,
Um, but
I mean, I was already disheartened. I was already,
yeah.
mad, angry. Just again, you and I both know people that are there, and both know people that used to be there. We've been around them at Nerdtacular, and again, I've never been to BlizzCon, but I know people that have hung out with people in BlizzCon, and blah blah blah. I've gotten FaceTimes from BlizzCon, like, "Hey, how you doing? Where are you?" Like, "I'm home in New Jersey. Sorry."
Yep.
But like stuff like that, and now it's like, oh, this was going on at BlizzCon. Alex, this guy, I keep slipping. AA
Yeah.
was doing stuff at BlizzCon. I
Yeah.
mean, so last week I was angry. I was floored. I mean, it's. I wrote a series of tweets and something in there that a couple people hit on and said, you know what, I didn't think of that, or no one else said that, or that's a good point. Is that this doesn't just affect the employees; it affects the employees the most, and it affects the victims the most and the most awful way. But on the outer rim of this whole thing, it affects the players as well. Because the players, like I said, love this company for years, decades. Looked up to these guys as like game developers, but we're geeks, we're nerds. They're heroes to us. It's not just some guy that types some code in and Mario's jumping around on the screen. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
lot. I had to tie the 8-bit thing in. Um, so it's a lot bigger than that to us geeks and to us nerds. So this is like, I mean, there's no other way to say it. This is not good. I mean, I'm there's been speculation in the past couple of years from guys that have left seemingly with no reason or not didn't have a lot of publicity on their way out, and that AA guy is one of them that supposedly quietly slipped out a couple of years ago and moved to Hawaii, and who knows what's going on, and there was never really anything big
Yep.
mentioned about it, and I'm one of the ones speculating, well, this may have something to do with it, or may have had something to do
Oh,
with it back
for
then.
sure. Yeah.
Right. And so I started to say last week I was angry, I was PO'd, I was disheartened, I was disappointed, thinking that eh, people that I consider friends were involved in this. And then I thought, you know what? I have nothing to do with it. I'm not a woman. I am American white male. I probably don't even really have a say. I'm just gonna sit back and watch and see what happens. And then today's article came out, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like that guy who's named the suite, that guy should be back in jail anyway. I don't think he should have gotten out to begin with, but that's another story for another day. But that's just freaking atrocious. Like to quote somebody that tweeted this the other day, that's reprehensible. Shoot, you know, like
Yeah.
that's insane. And the people that are in the picture are thankfully I don't know any of them personally. I met Greg Street once and
Yep.
called me an effing nerd, and I thought it was hilarious. And he shook my hand, gave me a hug, took a picture of me, and said, "Okay, I'll see you later." And then I didn't see him again the entire weekend. He was at Nerdtacular. He must have been back and forth doing I don't know what, but I saw him one time and that's it. My wife was in the elevator with him, didn't even know who he was. Uh, but so that's the only guy in the picture that I knew. Obviously, I recognized all of them, but um, I mean, and that was 2013 that was tweeted. I
Yeah.
mean, that's 7, 8 years ago, depending on when. I didn't see the exact date. I think it was August. So
Yeah.
almost 8 years. That's insane that this was I don't know if it was known about other than anyone outside that circle, of course. But this was at least publicized in some way and no one knew what it meant.
Yeah.
No one knew what Greg Street meant when he said there's always has to be a Cosby suite. No one knew what that meant. Everyone thought like, oh, cool, that guy's a big Cosby Show fan, and now Bill Cosby's a scumbag. I don't remember how long that goes back for, like when that Bill Cosby stuff came out.
It
I
was
I, I didn't
later
think
that
it was.
year, actually.
So I didn't think it was that long ago. For
Yeah.
some reason, I feel, you know what, all of 2020 disappeared.
Whole time
So to me,
dilation thing.
yeah, to
So,
me, I'm like, oh, that Bill Cosby thing was like 2 years ago, man. And then
Yeah.
you're like, no, it was 8, man. Like I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yep.
So when the speculation was just happening in the news, that's when that picture of that big Bill Cosby picture was tweeted. So that
Yep.
is damning right there. That is absolutely damning to the reputation, not of everyone in that picture, but of the company. Like,
Yeah.
how do you think that that's okay or funny or you know what I mean? Like, I don't have a picture of like Jeffrey Dahmer on my wall and I wouldn't if I owned a Burger King, you know, because people are gonna go, where the hell are those burger patties coming from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's goofy. It's a goofy, jokey kind of thing that I'm saying, but like, it's along the same what's the word? It's like the same sentiment almost. Like, what are they thinking? I mean, what I don't understand at all. Like, that article just pissed me off more than
Yeah.
than I already was, and I was already kind of like backing off. Like, I'm just gonna read whatever comes out and whoever's stories. I'll read everything I can, educate myself on this. And then that came out today, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and now I'm just waiting for okay, there has to be more. Like, what's next? There's got to be something else.
There
I,
so there will likely be more as the details of the trial come out, 'cause this is going to go to trial.
oh, I hadn't even think of
Uh,
that. I hadn't even thought of that part. Yeah, you're right.
um, because, based on the response, you know, I don't know what their legal team's thinking, so I don't know if they are going to settle. So there may be more stuff that comes to light
Oh man, if they
before anything
settle, that's
settles.
gonna be a there's
Um,
gonna be riots in the streets because
um,
people aren't going to accept. Oh, they settled out of court for whatever $10 million or whatever.
yeah,
People are not going to accept that because that's like a slap on the wrist. Let's give us a bunch of money and we'll let it go.
yeah, especially that since that's what
Essentially,
happened with Riot,
yeah,
was like basically nothing happened.
right.
Um,
And coincidentally, the one guy that posted the thing that
yep, is
posted
now
that
lead
thing
development of League of
is
Legends.
now at Riot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yep.
man,
So
I actually I don't know. I mean, I think the only good thing about this trial is that I mean, there's clearly millions of gamers in the world, but there's millions of non-gamers in the world that may not know who Blizzard is, so they can pick a fair jury. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, the other thing,
I
so
mean,
the other issue
I don't
is
know.
to point out is that this is a civil suit as opposed to a
Yeah,
criminal trial.
right.
Um,
Which is,
a lot of
I,
people seem
I,
to be
I
forgetting.
I
So
feel like the AA stuff could be a criminal thing.
that's the thing, is it may turn into a criminal trial for that.
Yeah,
But
that's insane.
but
It's insane.
yeah, I don't want to spend too much more time on this.
No, I know. I'm just in my head. I'm like, well, what happens to Warcraft? Do they just shut it down when
I mean, that's what's
if
happening right
God
now.
forbid
The
if
team
God
isn't working
forbid
right now, so
they well, no, I know. I saw something there that said all the internal emails are just about this. They're not even like, "Hey, patch, we need to work on 9.2 or 9.3 or whatever it is." Part of so I like I said, I haven't played WoW in a while. Part of me wanted to log in today just to see how many people weren't there, but I didn't. I mean, I also just got home from work 2 hours ago, so I haven't had a chance to do anything.
yeah,
But but part of me was curious, of course, but I would not break that virtual picket line. I saw some graphic going around.
yeah,
Um So I'll be playing Final Fantasy tonight,
yeah.
which by the way is free until level 60,
It
and it includes
is.
the expansions supposedly,
Yep.
which I haven't got. I'm only at 15, so I don't know yet.
Yeah,
But I'm having a lot of fun with that game.
yeah. Um, so to just kind of recap, what we can do as consumers is you can make that decision on where your comfort level is with breaking ties. Um, I mean, there are arguments to be made for trying to support the people that are still there, just trying to make do.
That's
Um,
part of my
yeah,
internal
uh,
conflict is I
and
know people are
it's
still
okay to
there,
not
and
know. It's okay to be
there are
conflicted.
there are a lot of there's thousands of employees at that company.
Yeah,
It's not just. I mean, all this stuff took place in the California the headquarters, but there's thousands of people in that company, thousands upon thousands. I understand the fact that ban or boycotting everything is going to hurt those good people too. Hopefully, there's more good than bad, but right now it's remains to be seen, really.
yeah,
And I hate to say that because again, I've been a Blizzard
yeah,
fanboy for 30 years. I mean, it's like I'm in the pro wrestling business. I've been in the pro wrestling business for over 20 years now. The pro wrestling business was rocked last year by the Me Too movement, for the same exact reasons. A
Yep.
whole bunch of guys were outed for doing this kind of crap, and it's been over a year now, and none of them are back in the business. None of them are public. A lot of them have deleted their Twitters. I mean, and that's over a year now, and those are independent. Those are independent wrestlers. This is a a corporation.
Yeah.
So this is a higher level than that. So I mean, I don't know where this is like I said, there's just an internal conflict. I'm clearly okay with not playing WoW because it's been so long anyway. But at the same time, I'm paid up for 6 months. Does me logging in hurt anybody? If it does, I won't do it. But at the same time, I can't get that money back.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's very selfish of me to even think that way because it's not about me. It's about the victims and it's about the
Yeah.
people that are going through this crap right now. And whether I play Warcraft or not, it won't matter.
Yeah.
But the fact is that they need to be heard. And I think the thing with Scott and Jules today was perfect. And I still have a couple minutes left. I haven't heard the whole thing, but I've got I don't know 5 or 6 minutes left. I think it was perfect. It was awesome, and she's awesome. I met her at Nerdtacular. I think the first two I was at. She's always super cool you know? So, and Scott, of course, he's the godfather of this whole nerd group that we all met through.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So he's the man anyway, and I appreciate the fact of him calling himself out, basically saying, I should have done this or thought this way or whatever. I understand now, and blah blah blah. But you know,
Yeah.
it's a just a terrible situation all around.
Yeah. Um,
It's difficult to talk about, and I feel like I'm not making any sense, but I'm trying.
no, I mean, it is a difficult thing to talk about. And we're doing the best we can. Um, but yeah, supporting the victims, treating other people with empathy, uh, and what unfortunately we weren't able to do tonight, which is why we're kind of trying to limit the amount of time, is um, make spaces for women to be heard and listen. Um, and of course, I say that we don't have any women on the podcast tonight, unfortunately, uh, but um, it's a case where uh, it's something that I have certainly been trying to work on. Normally, Courtney is on here, um, but she has to take care of herself um, for the next month or so. Uh, but yeah, just especially if you're in the gaming space, make spaces for women, um, and you know try and promote equity among everybody. So,
Yep.
whew. All right. Now that we got through the tough topic,
Yeah.
sort of the 800-pound gorilla in the
Yeah.
room. Um, Tangentially related to Final Fantasy 14, is the Steam Deck.
This
So,
that's one thing I'm looking forward to.
uh, so I did bring it up last week just with the announcement. So the Steam Deck is basically um a mobile gaming PC with the
Correct.
form factor of a Nintendo Switch. Uh,
It looks to me like a Sega Game Gear
it
almost,
does.
or an Atari Lynx, almost like a combo between the two.
Yeah. I definitely got Game Gear vibes from it when I
Yeah,
saw it.
I think
Um,
it looks really cool.
yeah. Uh, I know there has been some concern over like the button placements and everything.
Placement, yep. That's
Um,
kind of weird because it seems like everything's up here. Like I'm gonna be holding it this way up
yeah,
here, and the screen is down there, which means half my hand's gonna be covering the screen. I don't know.
especially since there's been so many complaints about like how small the button placements and everything are on the Switch already. And this
Yeah.
seems to like try and cram in also touch pads on both sides.
Yep.
But there's 3 models. They start at 399,
Yeah.
all the way up to
399.
649, with the only
Yep.
differences being in internal memory storage, the was it glare resistant screen, and then I think Aaron Engineer said last week the top model also has some slightly improved SSD. Um,
Yeah. So the 399 version is 64 gigs.
mhm.
That's got eMMC. That's got eMMC memory, which is basically embedded. Um, there is a $529 version, which is 256 gigs. That's got an NVMe SSD, and then the 649 version, which is the one that I reserved because I have to have the top of the line everything. That's 512 gigs, and that's also an NVMe SSD. All three of them have an SD card slot, which I think is cool. And I thought I heard somewhere that like the higher one, the $649 one, is like engraved somehow with the logo or something. I don't know where I heard that from. I looked the other
Oh, that I
day and
don't
I
know.
couldn't find
Huh.
it. Yeah, I don't know. I heard something about some kind of engraving or something, or some kind of special logo that's going to be on it, but I don't know if that was the right word, and I haven't been able to find it since. So maybe I thought of that in a dream or something.
I
I'm
thought there
trying to
was
look
something
for it
about
now,
if
actually.
it was, like, something to do with the etching on the screen makes it anti-glare maybe? Um,
Oh, that you know what? Engraving and etching, I'm probably getting mixed up because engraving sounds. They're not going to engrave the screen. That would destroy it. I guess I didn't think of it that way.
yeah.
I mean, you never know. It's
Um,
2019 or whatever it is now, 2021.
yeah.
Jeez.
But, yeah, and this essentially will play most Steam titles, uh, and it'll do it, fairly well. Um, and, and it'll basically like, it'll connect to your Steam library. So, like, day 1, you'll just go in and download whatever titles you want that you already own. So, this
Right.
like, kind of solves one of the issues that Nintendo fans have had with Nintendo, like, consoles basically, is that having to rebuy the same titles over and over again. Uh,
Yep.
so that now, like, anything that you own on PC on Steam, you'll be able to import
Right.
onto the Steam Deck, assuming that there's
Yeah, because
space.
it's basically a
It also
PC. Yeah.
has, expandable memory. Uh,
Yeah. Which is cool. The SD card
yeah,
slot they have micro SD, which is cool. But Valve's statement was, what we want to be available on this is the entire Steam library,
yeah,
which is it sounds like a big undertaking, but again, this is Valve's device, so I don't think it'll be that difficult for them. What I do think is interesting and cool about it is that they're letting you wipe it and install other OSs, which is insane to me.
yeah. That's
So you
like,
can still so right now it'll run under SteamOS out of the box, but you can wipe that, throw in install Windows 10 or Windows 11, and then just install Steam in Windows. So
yep,
you still have now you have both.
yeah,
So I'm looking forward to playing Final Fantasy. I'm looking forward to Shenmue on the go. I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy. Oh, Final Fantasy will be tough because I don't think it doesn't have like the cellular, you know, signal or whatever. So you can't
yeah.
pay
No, so
like
you'd
Verizon
you'd
20
only be
bucks
able to play it on Wi-Fi.
on Wi-Fi, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. I don't have a hotspot on my phone, but I'll figure out a way. But looking forward to Final Fantasy 14 online on that thing. I'm looking forward to Shenmue on that thing. Whatever Days Gone is like my number one love the last couple of years. I'm looking forward to playing that on this thing. I mean, I'm super looking forward to this. When I first saw it, I'm like, that's kind of silly, and I already have a Switch, and I don't touch that. So why would I need this? I haven't used my Switch in months. I went nuts trying to find it, and I finally got it, and it just sits there. I paid retail price where I got it off Amazon, but I just whatever. I guess it didn't grab me. So I don't see why I think this thing will, but I've already reserved the $649 version. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'll figure it out when it gets here, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I can't justify even the lowest cost price right now. Especially I realized, the hosting costs for my websites are due this year, and they're on, like, the 3-year term.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah. What a coincidence.
yeah, that's about the same price as, as the Steam Deck itself. So it's like, yeah, I can't justify it. Um,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I mean, so a lot of folks in the Nintendo space are kind of concerned. And I mean, among the fans. I don't think Nintendo itself is very concerned because they just kind of go off and do their own thing. Um, Concerned in that, uh, since you can run Windows on this, that folks are going to take this, run install Windows on it, then get an emulator or Switch software, and then load the Switch software onto that, and then run it as an emulation machine, and basically
Oh, I
have
never
it
thought
run
of
as a
that.
better version of the Switch.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. I never thought of that
And
before.
then the concern is, like, if too many people do that, then it goes the way of the Vita, which is
Yeah,
Steam, Valve essentially goes, "Well, we can't do this anymore because we're gonna get sued."
yeah,
Um, or they take away that functionality, which takes away, like, a huge appeal of it.
yeah. Of
Um,
course.
so I don't know how, like, I don't necessarily wanna say that that concern is invalid, but whether it's as big of a problem as people think it's going to be. Um,
Right. I hadn't even thought of that.
yeah,
I mean, I don't even. I'm usually a big emulator guy, but it's been a couple years since I've kept up with the scene. I don't even know if there's a Switch emulator available right now. I'm sure there has to be somewhere. If not, someone's working on it.
yeah,
I'm sure. But that's actually that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to Google some of that because I didn't even think. I thought of someone's gonna run it like a Game Boy or an NES or whatever, but I never even thought of Switch.
yeah.
That's really interesting.
Um, Disclaimer, folks, don't pirate.
No, no.
Pirating is,
The only
legally
stuff I've ever
speaking, pirating is wrong.
the only stuff I emulate is games I've already got,
Yeah.
which I just found a crate the other day of old NES games, which is awesome. I didn't even know I
Yeah.
had.
Um, but, outside of that, like, yeah, the fact that you can decide to run Windows and then install other apps. So, like, you can also run the Epic Game Store on this,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a good
um,
point. Anything,
as well as, like,
the
any other
Ubisoft,
launchers.
yeah,
Uh,
Ubisoft launcher, the
yeah,
Blizzard
Ubisoft.
launcher, the
Yeah.
Steam itself. I can see a lot of people that I know wiping it, installing Windows, and then just installing Steam in Windows, so they have both. Otherwise, without it, it's just Steam OS and it's only Steam games. But like, I mean, I don't have Final Fantasy 14 through Steam though, so I would have to do it that way. I just have it through Square Enix website. I
I
have
mean, you
I
can
did
load it
their
through Steam.
download. Can I do that without actually purchasing it through Steam?
So I think what happens is, because I think I did get it through Steam, and what happens is, like, you don't actually, well, so I did the free trial though. So, like,
Yeah,
what happens
that's
is
what I'm doing right now.
Steam then installs the Final Fantasy 14 launcher.
Oh,
Or I may
okay.
have installed it separately, but I run it through Steam to
Yeah,
get the
it's got
controller
their launch.
support.
Right.
But, like, it's something weird, like, because I also have Wakfu, uh
Okay.
from, like, Square Enix and,
Yeah.
Ankama, and they do the same thing where, like, even though it's through Steam, like,
It still
Steam,
runs their
when
own
it boots
launcher.
up, runs their launcher, which then boots up, which then you
That
log into
seems
that in order to,
that
yeah,
seems
it's
so
a whole mess.
counterproductive or
Um,
inefficient.
yeah. But, yeah, I have to boot it up through Steam in order to use, my Switch Pro controller because nobody besides Steam has support for it. Uh,
I use the PS5 controller, just
yeah,
not for Final Fantasy. I'm all mouse and keyboard there.
yeah,
But like I play Days Gone on PC a lot because I mean I have it on PS5 and it's beautiful and it's great, but PC is where the mods are, so I had to try all this wacky stuff. So I'm using the PS5 controller with that. And same thing with like GTA. GTA and PC I got because of the mods, and I use the PS5 controller for that.
yep.
But there's nothing in Steam that I use the controller for, and I don't know why. I've never I don't know. I always feel like I don't know. When I was when I was not as big into console gaming for a while, I always thought like, oh, if I have a mouse and keyboard, I'm a PC guy. If I have a controller, I might as well just buy a console. And then it had been a while since I bought anything, and then I went out and got a PS1, and then a PS2, 3, 4, and now a 5 sitting over here.
Yeah, it's weird. So, like, some games I'll do exclusively with a controller.
Right.
Um, like Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm playing through. Um,
Somebody has to sell me on that game because I don't get the hype. I like it, it's good, and I have it. I haven't played it in a while, but people are telling me, like, when it first came out, like, "Oh, game of the year, greatest game ever for PlayStation 4," and game of the year I heard so many times, and I'm like, "Man, I just don't get you." Like, I play it and I like it and it's good, but it's not that for me, it's not a 10 out of 10 or a 20 out of 10. For me, it's like a 6.5 to a 7 maybe. I just don't get it. I don't understand the hype. But
um,
then again, people don't understand my hype about Days Gone, which to me is a 50 out of 10.
yeah,
So,
and the thing is, like ratings and stuff like that are somewhat subjective. Like you can
right.
apply certain objective elements to them, like does the game run well? Um,
Yeah,
and I mean, games journalists say this, like have basically been pushing this a lot more now. Is that like of letting people know that there is a certain amount of subjectivity in like
of
rating it
course.
in like how good a game is.
Right.
And typically what you want to do is if you're reviewing a game is you find somebody that is gonna like the game to review it
Yeah,
to then, essentially to help review it to other people who are also gonna like the game. Because
right.
like, I mean, you can try and sell something to somebody that's not gonna like the game, but especially in this day and age, people are probably gonna already have an informed opinion on whether they're gonna like a game or not.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
of course.
and it's often easier to sell people who might be on the fence if you have somebody that's like really enthusiastic and like understands all of the nitty-gritty subsystems and everything. And is knowledgeable about it. So you want to find somebody that's passionate to do it. In which case, I mean, yeah, they're probably going to rate it more favorably.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, I mean, if it's a game that truly falls short, they're also going to be able to acknowledge that, um, and maybe give it a lower score. Y- But who knows? I mean,
Yeah,
uh, but yeah, I mean, it's a. But anyway, that's just an example of a game that I've been exclusively playing with controllers. FF14, I'll go back and forth depending on how I feel, like whether I
yeah.
want to sit through having to do like 10 extra button presses to get to like
Right. That's
my
why
inventory.
I can't see me using the control my inventory.
I mean,
So
if
I
it's
can't
something where
see me
like
using the controller for that game.
if I'm going to do a session of fishing, which listeners of this podcast know, uh my thoughts on fishing mini games in gaming. Uh where I could spend a whole session, like whole game set, just like 2 hours of just fishing. Like that's something I could use a controller for.
Yeah.
Uh Whereas, if I'm going to go through doing a dungeon, maybe
Yeah.
I'll do keyboard and mouse.
Right.
Um Especially if I need to tab through to my character screen to figure out if something's an actual upgrade or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh But, yeah. I mean, with this way with the Steam Deck, it'll already have it built in so that you don't have to worry about that. Um,
Right.
it will be so a dock is not available yet. Um, it's supposedly coming later. Will
Which
be
is
available
wait,
separately, so that is something to
yeah.
factor in if you're worried about cost.
I get
However,
that I understand that it's coming separately, but I think that's something that should be available at launch, no?
I mean, if it's
It
really gonna
makes
be
sense.
looking at, like, the same headspace as the Switch, yeah, and it should be
But
bundled with it.
yeah,
Uh,
like I don't buy a TV then and I have to but I have to wait a month for the legs so I
yeah.
can, if I'm not planning on mounting it on the wall, I need the legs that come with it. So I don't want to buy the TV and then just hold it there for a month while someone comes in a month later and puts the legs on.
Yeah.
Like, come on. That's something that
Supposedly, even though it doesn't have a dock yet, you can I don't know if it's through one of the USB attachments or if it has an HDMI port out and you can just connect it to a monitor. Um, I'm trying to remember what they said. It was Nintendo Voice Chat, IGN's podcast did a session where they talked about it. Um, and just like in comparison to the Switch. And they were talking about this, and I can't remember if there is some way to connect it to a monitor. I just don't know if it's like through USB and like
yeah,
a USB to HDMI connection, or if it just has
I
a
do
straight up
remember seeing
HDMI
that.
port.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that now that you mention that.
Um, But,
So wait, let me ask you. Well,
yeah,
I could probably Google this too, but if I have the Steam Deck, I connect it to a monitor. Is the thing now a second monitor, or is everything on that monitor now? And I can this is my controller. You know what I mean?
I think the intention is that it outputs it to the second monitor as
But do
opposed to
I
acting
do
like a
both?
second screen.
That's what I mean. Okay.
Yeah,
So I mean, I have a PC. So if you don't have a PC, that makes sense. I clearly do. So I wouldn't need. I just use Steam on the PC.
yeah,
I mean,
um,
if I'm in a different room where where my PC is not, then I hook it up to my television or my monitor, wherever. That's fine.
yeah.
But yeah, that makes more sense.
And I think it also might allow you to stream games from your PC to the device.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere too. That's kind of cool.
Um,
I'm excited. I mean,
yeah,
we'll see how excited I am come December when I get the email saying your reservation is ready to be purchased, and then I realize, oh yeah, that's right. This thing is $700 and Christmas is coming, and I have a brand new niece that's now a week old and another one that's a year old, and what am I gonna
yep.
do?
uh,
But I'm
yeah,
definitely looking forward to it. I didn't know what to expect when the only thing I think I'm not a fan of is the name. It's too close to Stream Deck, which I
it
also have.
is for
Right.
sure. I
So
There's gonna be so many, like, even last week
I'm
when I was
waiting
trying to
for
look stuff up and doing a Google search,
right. Oh
Google
yeah, yeah.
wants to direct
Oh
you
yeah.
to
It
like
said, do you mean?
Elgato
Did you
products, and it's
mean
like,
Stream Deck?
no, this is its
Right.
own thing.
So I'm
Uh,
I'm I'm waiting for scammers on eBay and Facebook Marketplace that are going to list one and sell the other. They're going
oh
to
yeah,
list the Steam Deck for $500, and someone's going to buy the $100 Elgato Steam Stream Deck, and
yep,
then something's going to happen where the seller's going to go, look, you just misread the ad. Like it says it right here in the fine print.
yep.
It
Uh,
says right here, auction heading is a typo. It should be STREAM.
yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, it says right there it's a typo.
I mean,
Well,
it's
hey
also
man, that's
like
not my problem.
Valve. Like, you couldn't come up with something
I know,
like
like
Steam or pipe related or something. You know,
that
like
was
you did it with Steam.
that's a great name, pipe related. I like it. Like that's great.
Uh, I can't remember where I was
Or
coming
just
up with stuff. It
just the
was in
Half Life
somebody's
machine.
chat,
Just call
and
it
I
the
was
Half
like, "Well,
Life
what about the
machine.
spanner?"
I
You
like
know,
that.
because like it's so for those that don't know, a spanner is in British English what they call wrenches.
Yeah,
uh and like that is like one of the quintessential plumbing tools is a wrench to be able to,
yeah,
tighten pipes and stuff. Uh and so not only does it have like that element to piping, which, Valve is named
yeah.
after,
Right,
but then you also get the other definition of spanning something where it's gonna span across distances because you're gonna be able to take it with you. It's
right.
mobile.
Yeah.
So like something like that would have been a better name,
I
like
don't
the
think a
Steam
lot of
Spanner.
gamers are as clever as that though. Like they would
No.
have, you would have had to do it. You yourself had to do like a YouTube video explaining what the hell the name means.
Uh or even just
I like
like
I like the Half Life machine, the portable Half Life machine. I
yeah,
don't
or call it the mist. Just don't call it the vapor because that has a
know.
specific connotation in gaming and software space. Uh just
Vaporware.
I don't know, call it something else. Give it a cool name. Cuz yeah, it's not cool, it's not evocative. It's going to be confused with Stream Decks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a better name for it myself, but Steam Deck I don't think is it. Especially because it does so much more than Steam. If you couldn't wipe it and throw Windows on it, then what is it then, a Windows deck? You know?
Yeah.
If I wipe and throw Windows on it and don't put Steam in Windows, then what? It's just it doesn't do, and then it would have nothing to do with Steam. Or if I throw Linux on it, it would have nothing to do with Steam if I don't install Steam. So give me a universal name. Well, please call it the Image Machine. I would endorse that. I'll even let you use the name for a small fee,
Yep.
and I will sign any contract you want for a small fee, and it will be great. We'll be good.
Uh,
The
or even
Image
like
Deck,
the
that's fine.
conduit
The what?
or something. You're just like the Steam conduit,
I
or
like
come up
that
with
too.
some cheeky name like where it's something like Switch,
I was just thinking
but
of that. I was just thinking, what would be like
the
Switch?
toggle,
Oh, that I like that actually.
or call it toggle box or something.
I actually like that, the toggle box, 'cause then you can toggle it between Steam and Windows.
Yep. Uh, so here's the other thing to note. So a lot of folks are trying to compare this to the Steam box. Um,
I remember that. I
and
never
that, you know,
used one
that
of
whole
those,
failed
but
project.
yeah,
The
that
difference
did
is
not go well.
Valve is actually producing these. Whereas Valve never actually produced any hardware for the Steam box. It was all like licensed out to third parties. So at least this way, it's going to
Oh.
be one set of specs as opposed to, um, for each SKU, as opposed to having like a bunch of different manufacturers that are all going to have a bunch of different settings and everything. Um, it's going to take sort of that design space from consoles and be like, these are the components that are in this device. Uh, this is what you get. Um, but one of the things to see is if games that you download onto it, because I mean, if it's essentially going to be running like PC software, uh, if you're going to be able to mess around with the settings in games and end up like accidentally giving yourself like a poor experience, not knowing how to optimize uh
Oh,
your
on
like
that
your
device.
settings.
Yeah.
That said, I don't know if the audience that's picking this up is going to have that problem necessarily.
I'm
Um,
curious, just because we talked about Blizzard using like Warcraft as an example, I'm curious about the joystick controls. If someone installs Windows and installs the Blizzard launcher and plays WoW, can you do it with the joystick with the control, the joystick controller and buttons? And
well,
how is that going to work? Because I know WoW is controller ready
yeah,
supposedly, and there's been videos of people playing it, but it looks so complicated. I mean, I have ESO for PS4, which I haven't played
yeah,
in ages, and that is like, instead of a toolbar, it's like if I hold up and hit square, that's one button or one function. I mean, I should say that where normally if it was on a PC, that would be like the one button on my hotbar, or two would be down and square, and then left and square, and then right and square, or left and circle. So like, there's a ton of combinations, but it just seems so. How do you remember all that? It's just so much easier for me to just press one than like
yeah.
to remember I have to hit up and circle and then down for the next
Uh,
move or whatever.
it's one of the
So,
things where with Warcraft. So I remember trying out the new controller inputs
oh, you tried it? I
when they
don't
were
know anyone
baked
that tried it. Oh, that's
into
interesting.
the game when Shadowlands launched.
Yeah,
And I
that's
was like,
interesting.
I'm gonna try this because I had tried the trial for Final Fantasy 14, and I was like, you know what? I kind of really like playing with a controller if I'm just doing because at the time, like I wasn't doing dungeons, I wasn't doing raiding or anything intensive like that.
Yeah,
I was just going around doing questing. And I'm like, you
that's
know
what I'm
what?
doing now.
I'm doing low impact gaming here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could, and I know my rotation. It's not very complicated. Uh so yeah, I can probably get by with doing a controller. And uh it shows that it's a game that was not built with this in mind, trying to kind of shoehorn it in from an accessibility standpoint. And like you can kind of make it work. It doesn't work very well. And in order to really do controller support well, is the game needs to be built from the ground up,
Oh,
having
yeah.
both as options, like
Right,
FF14
right,
does,
right.
where
Yeah, absolutely.
like you're using your I can't remember if it's the bumpers or the shoulder buttons to like toggle through your um
Yeah.
essentially your menus for buttons. Um and then it's just a matter of using like directional buttons and ABXY to use your abilities.
Yeah,
Uh
it's like, I mean, it seems wonky and bulky, for lack of a better term,
yeah,
to try it now as opposed to being built from the ground up.
yeah. And then I had the extra disadvantage of trying to use a Switch Pro controller, which of course is not supported by Windows. So then it was like having to figure out like, am I gonna have to load the Blizzard launcher through Steam in order to get my specific controller input and then
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, I ended up having to jump through all sorts of hoops, and then like half the time it would work, and then half the time it wouldn't. So
I remember.
it was just very frustrating.
Yeah,
I ended up giving it up. Just but yeah, I mean, it kind of worked. Was, left stick was basically to move around and right stick was to do your camera.
Yeah.
Um, and
Isn't
then
there isn't
you had
there
to like
4
set a
buttons
button
on
to strafe so that like if you wanted to like fix your camera and
Oh,
move
there's no.
left to right. Um,
So there's only 4 buttons on the Steam Deck and then the shoulder pad and the
there
trigger.
is a directional
So,
pad.
yeah. But I thought there was 4 buttons on each side for some reason. Like, A, B, X, Y, and then circle star, circle whatever, circle exit, and
No, what they
square.
would do is you'd use the directional pad for the other set of
Yeah.
4 buttons.
Alright.
Yeah.
So but again, I'm curious to see how some PC games would work with the controllers, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage with this is if they don't, that's what your touchpads are for,
Yeah.
so that you can do, essentially
Yeah, and I
mouse.
like that there's 2 touchpads too, because that's kinda cool for lefties,
Yeah,
which I'm not,
I
but
don't know how that's, like
that's the only thing I thought it was that's for left-handed people. I
yeah,
wouldn't use it probably because 'cause I'm righty unless I mean, if I'm holding it like this and I'm getting used to using it with my left hand, then maybe. But I figure I'm gonna be on the joysticks, not the
yeah,
touchpads,
um,
the majority of the time. But I'm
yeah,
very
it's,
much looking
I
forward to
and I
Final
don't
Fantasy
know if any
14
games are
mobile.
gonna have the capacity to use both at the same time.
Oh,
Um,
that's a good question too, actually.
I don't know. Uh, we'll see.
I'm looking forward to, Final Fantasy 14, what do you call it? Mobile.
Yeah, so, do we have any final thoughts on the Steam Deck?
I'm excited. I didn't like I said before, I didn't expect to be excited when I first saw it, like, okay, it's a giant Game Gear that I could play PC games on.
Yeah.
I already have a PC. And then, like, I watched, a video of it, and I saw some stuff online, and I actually researched a little bit. And I'm like, "Oh, this is kinda cool." And of course, my wife, knowing me as well as she does, 10 minutes after it was announced on Twitter, I got a link texted to me. "Look at this thing. I know you're gonna like it." I said, "I already, ordered it. I already pre-ordered it." She's like yeah, she goes, "Yeah, I should have known. Why did I even bother sending you
Yep,
this?"
yep.
Well, like, 'cause, you know me. So, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. This is I'm not a big, like, Christmas gift guy, since I've been an adult. I'm into, like, buying stuff for the kids in my family, that's really it. But this thing's coming out in December, so this is, like, the first time in a long time that I'm looking forward to December for me to Christmas
Yeah,
for me, I mean.
and I
So,
think
I'm excited about it.
this is something that I'm not excited about it for myself, but I'm excited to see how it impacts the gaming space
Yeah, that
and
as well.
how it works for other people.
I'm I'm curious to see well, I'm curious to do myself to use a Steam Deck and a Stream Deck together on
Yeah.
the same stream. Jesus.
A,
I wanna use a Steam Deck and a Stream Deck on the same stream running a
here's
game through Steam.
here's where the inception goes even further, is
I'm gonna
that because you can run Windows, you can run your Elgato Stream Deck software on your Steam Deck.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
So you can
Wow,
run your
that
Stream
makes
Deck
it
on your
even
Steam Deck or your
yes. Oh, I
streaming.
never thought of that. That's amazing, and again, because you've installed Windows, you can install Steam.
Yeah.
So you can run the Elgato Stream Deck software on the Steam Deck while you're running Steam while you're on Twitch streaming.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
This is uh, this is sounding more and more like just a name that needs to be fixed or changed or something. Because this is way too confusing. I'm not that smart, so to figure this out is gonna take me a while.
Yep. So, all
Oh,
right.
man.
I think on that note, we are going to we're going to end this episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. Joey Image, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, this
It's
is
always a
fun, man.
pleasure when
Thank you
we
for
have
having
you
me on.
on.
It's been a
Um,
while, I appreciate it.
do you have any projects that you want to tell the audience
Uh,
about?
you can follow me on all social media platforms at Joey Image TV. Um, I don't know, nothing else really going on. Any wrestling fans, if you know who X Pac is, I did his podcast last night, which will release tomorrow. Did his podcast a couple weeks ago, which already released, obviously. So check me out there, and my YouTube, Twitch, everything is at Joey Image TV on all social platforms. Thank you.
All right. Uh, if you want to get more content from 8-Bit Adventures, you can check out 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find my comics, my artwork, VODs from all the streams, podcasts, and more. If you would like to help support that content, you can become a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. It would help if I put the right command in. There we go. Um, Patrons get early access to comics, some exclusive comics, as well as exclusive behind the scenes access to sort of playtest content for Dungeons and Dragons. Finally, this podcast opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. Big shout out and thank you to Professor Shy Guy. Thank you to the patrons. And once again, thank you to Joey. Uh, so
Thank you,
as
sir.
always,
Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. It's been a very long time.
yeah,
I'm praying for another Nerdtacular at some point, and I hope you're going to be there because we haven't hung out in years, and
yeah.
I miss you,
Uh,
man.
we'll have to see because like now I've got like a whole bunch of people that I'd have to bring with me. Like it's no longer like I can just take off and go on my own. Like
Yeah,
it would have to be like a family trip.
yeah, I hear
Uh,
you. Life happens.
yeah. Um, so as always, folks, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.